Hi, everyone. I'm here to introduce you to the Create Getting Started guide. To get started, I'm Daryl, KaiXR's Head of Customer Success, and with our Getting Started video, you've unlocked the tips and best practices detailed in our guide. Feel free to refer back to these tips to help answer any frequently asked questions you may have from your students. So to get started, we're going to take a closer look at our index to understand more about today's video. I'll be diving into each of the listed items under our index today, and by the end of this video, you'll be able to move around the Create space, add objects or assets to the Create space, edit, move, and delete those assets, present your creation in play mode, save your creations by downloading them, and explain the above concepts to students. So if you're ready, we're going to get started by first, what is a makerspace? So makerspaces are designed to challenge users to create and learn through hands-on personalized experiences. KaiXR's Create is a virtual makerspace. That is, it allows teachers and students to create 3D environments and learn by doing so without needing a specialized physical space. Our Create makerspace is accessible with all of your classroom and household devices. We suggest first getting started with a laptop or desktop. For your laptops and desktops, you'll want to make sure you choose a browser or an optimal browser. We suggest getting started with Chrome. Once you confirm that you're using the most recent version of your browser, you'll want to go to kaixr.com to access your account. You'll find helpful links for getting started and information for updating your browser listed in the guide. As a second option, we suggest getting started with tablets. First, you'll want to ensure that your devices are using the latest operating system and that your web browser is up to date. Once both are up to date, go to KaiXR website to get started. Again, you'll find helpful links for updating your browser and device listed in the guide. Now that we've discussed what is a makerspace, let's take a look at how you connect with KaiXR and access the Create Makerspace. Step 1, you want to access the Create Makerspace by going to kaixr.com. You can also click the link shown in Step 1 on the video and then also in the guide. Next, you can use the guide to help reference the Create Makerspace button. You'll see it on the website like the picture highlighted on the screen. You'll want to click Let's Create to open the Makerspace. When you open the platform, you'll be prompted to get started with our Create tutorial. You'll want to make sure you start with that tutorial to learn the Makerspace basics, plus develop your virtual skills. This will help when you're teaching your students tips and the best practices to help them design. Plus, you can replay the tutorial to clarify any concepts you might not understand initially. This guide will help you relocate the replay tutorial button. However, I'll highlight it at the end of this guide during our personal walkthrough. When you first go through the Create Getting Started guide, you'll see our Now You Try It prompts to help you practice each step. Here's a sample of what they'll look like. You'll want to pay special attention to each of our prompts to give you design time to practice each steps. Again, during the personal walkthrough at the end of this video, I'll go through each of the design prompts following this one to help you see how to do each step. Plus, you can refer back to this guide and the video should you have any additional questions. So let's first look at our Create viewport. Here you'll see a sample of our Create viewport, and the Create viewport allows you to edit the settings of your space, add objects known as assets, change the environment or the ground of your space, plus explore with the character known as an avatar. When it comes to navigating the Create grid, you can do so in two ways. First is orbiting. Orbit will allow you to look around the Create grid. You'll find steps for how to orbit on each device listed in the guide. Next is zooming in and out on the Create grid. This will allow you to see the grid in closer detail or a far landscape view. Depending on your device, you'll want to use the guide to learn the best way to zoom in and out on your device. You can click a square on the Create grid to move. This will move the point of your focus in Create mode and your avatar in Play mode, which I'll go over shortly. When you see a white box or circle, it represents the space you're allowed to move. Now let's take a look at some of the things to keep in mind when adding and customizing assets. Assets include all objects you can add to a scene, including trees, blocks, animals, buildings, or etc. Once you hit the Assets button in the bottom left corner, you can select which assets to add to your space. To add an asset to your scene, you can drag and drop it from the menu onto the map. Keep in mind that a red box means that you can't place an asset on the create grid, and a white box means that you can put an asset on the create grid. Once you've added an asset to the create grid, you can edit by using the edit tools translate, rotate, and scale. The first tool we're going to quickly discuss is translate, meaning how you can move the asset around. Using translate, you can move the asset on the X, Y, and the Z axes. Each of the axes is color-coded, which our guide helps you break down for students. One of my favorite ways to remember the color axes used for virtual designing going forward is to remember that RBG equals XYZ, or the colors red, blue, and green are the axes X, Y, and Z in order. Next is rotate. So imagine if you want to spin the object around to face a different direction. Rotate is the tool that you use to do so. Last up, we have scale. This means that we're changing the size of your asset, making them larger or smaller or vice versa. You'll again find more details about each of these tools in our guide as shown on the screen. The final tool is to customize our assets is the advanced and delete. For assets on the block or in the block and animal categories, this lets you change the color of the assets. Other assets might have specific advanced options. For example, for the campfire, you can turn the fire animation on or off. Now let's move on to discussing our settings. Your settings will allow you to rename and download your makerspace file to share with others. As a note, the recipient must have an active KaiXR account to open the file. Additionally, the settings will show your memory used. Each create scene has a limited number of assets you can add. This tells you how much of the capacity of your scene you have used. And as you add assets, you will use more and more memory. If you hit 100%, you will not be able to add any more assets. Lastly, settings will show snapping. What snapping does is make it easier to turn your assets to align with other assets. Turning off snapping gives you more control over where your asset is and how you move it around the create grid. Use the guide to further learn about snapping in more detail, plus more information that you can share with your classroom. Now let's discuss how to change your create grid environment. In Create, you can start from a number of templates, forest, city, etc., which all have a certain background or ground style. For example, in the forest template, the ground is set as green. But you can change this environment later on. For example, you can make your forest have a snowy ground. To select a different environment or background to add to your scene, click the Environments button on the bottom left of your viewport and choose your desired environment for your virtual scene. Our guide helps locate the button plus show an example of the environment change. Play mode will allow you to explore your simulated create environment as an avatar. You can move the avatar around by clicking somewhere on the create grid. You can hit the play button shown on the screen on the top right corner. Next, to select a different template or the different create grid to build from, you want to return to the home page and select a different template to build from. To get there, first you want to click on the beta button on the top left of your viewport and choose your desired template to build from for your virtual scene. You can choose our city, forest, space, or even underwater templates to start with, plus other templates to choose from. Now, for some closing tips to help. You can switch between the Create and Explore platforms simply by clicking on the beta button located in the top left of your screen. There you'll see the platform names listed. Simply click on the desired platform and you're good to go. Lastly, remember that if you or your students get frustrated or stuck, we don't give up. Instead, what we do is take a pause, try a different option, review the Getting Started guide, this video, or our tutorial, and you can always start over. But again, we don't give up. And of course, if you have any questions or need elevated assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to our team by emailing us at support@kaixr.com because we're always here to help. So hopefully this information was helpful covering the guide. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about your experience. Now that we've covered the guide, we're now going to take a time to actually go into Create and work together. All right. So again, everybody should be able to see my screen. First thing I want to do is, of course, highlight our replay tutorial button. So we're going to start with the replay tutorial button. We're going to go over some of the basics together. So we're going to start with completing our 11 steps to start creating in our virtual worlds. Again, these are going to learn all about the basics of our design steps and going to teach us all the tools. So first, we want to press and drag to rotate around the scene. This is going to be an example of how we orbit. So now we're going to be orbiting around, and what I'm doing is on my laptop, I'm pressing my finger on the trackpad and I'm using my other finger to drag around. And you'll see well done, and that's going to take me to the next step. So for part 2, now we're going to start looking at how we're going to zoom in. We've already kind of talked about this, but again, for each device is going to be different. On my laptop, what I'm going to do is use my trackpad, and I'm going to use a pinch gesture. If you're also on your tablet, you can use that as well. So now that we've just discussed zooming in and out and of course orbiting, now we're going to discuss how we actually drag and drop objects or assets onto our screen. So let's do it together. We're going to start with our block here, and I'm going to drag it onto the screen. So we'll see the rectangle. There we go. Perfect. Now we're going to learn about all of our edit tools. First up is translate. Now we see that I'm a little bit far here, so let's zoom in. So again, to zoom in, what I'm going to do is use my trackpad on my laptop, and I'm going to do a pinch gesture to pull myself in. And you see, we just zoom right in. There we go. So we're going to click on the asset, and now you're going to see our edit tools pop up here. The first one we're going to do is translate. Translate is going to allow us to move around the X, Y, and the Z axis. So first up, you see that it wants us to translate on the X axis. You'll always know the X axis because it'll be red. So there we go. Good job. All right, perfect. Now we're going to move to step 5. We're going to translate on the Y axis. So we see again that the Y axis is going to be reflected in this color. We see our arrow here for the green. So we're going to just pinch and grab, and what I did was I used my mouse and trackpad, and I clicked and I dragged up and down on the axis, and that's how I was able to move it there. All right, so the last axis that we're going to translate on is our Z axis. So now we're going to see the Z axis represented by this blue color on the arrow, and what you want to do is just go here, and you're going to simply again click, and you want to drag along the axis. And as you'll see in the background, the asset is moving back and forth. All right, let's move to the next step. So here we have rotate. So again, for rotate, you want to imagine if you're going to change the direction of an object to face or align with a different object, okay? So we're going to rotate an object 90 degrees here. So again, in our edit tools, you'll see that rotate is selected here. And what we're going to do is you'll see this green circle. Again, all I want to do is click on my mouse trackpad, and I'm going to drag my finger around. And you'll see again in the background, as I drag my finger around to the left and the right, that asset is moving in the background, and that is rotating. So let's move to the next one. And this last step is going to be doubling the size of an object. This will allow us to scale. So what scale will do is, again, you'll see the object here on the create grid. What I'm going to do is hover over it. You'll see how all of our white boxes are selected here. And I just want to grab one, and I'm going to click and drag. So again, I'm going to click on the white box, and you'll see that if I drag up and down, that the asset is getting larger and smaller. All right, so congratulations, we did that together. All right, and now we're going to go into our virtual world, and we're going to explore it in play mode. So play mode allows us to explore our virtual world as an avatar. So you'll see again that I clicked play mode up here on the right, and we're going to go into that a little bit more detail again. Now, I want everybody, of course, to remember this one. This is one of my favorite tools. This is snapping. With snappings, that allow us to easily align our objects or place them in an exact location. Also, we have in the settings is going to be the memory used. Now, we covered this in the guide, but the memory used, of course, is going to reflect all the assets that you are adding to your create space. So the more assets that you add, you'll see, of course, reflect in the memory, and your memory, of course, will increase in size, as you see on the screen. All right, so now let's start creating. So together, what we're going to do is we're going to work through our try it samples. All right. So the first sample that we want to do is we're going to select our forest template. So we're going to choose our new template. We're going to go to the forest here. Now, when we get to the forest, first we want to kind of explore. So we want to kind of just like look around. As you see, as I'm kind of going on, you'll see where I'm clicking to move my point of focus here. And I'm moving around there. Now, let's say I want to orbit. So let's just take a look around, so left and the right. And again, the way that I'm orbiting is that I'm clicking on my mouse pad and I'm dragging with my other finger around, so the left and the right. Now let's zoom in. Let's say we want to take a look at our tent and our fireplace. So what I want to do is I want to focus on my object, and I'm going to use my two fingers on the trackpad, and I'm going to pinch to zoom in and zoom out. And this will allow me to take a closer look here. So we see our fireplace, we're exploring the forest, nice. Let's take a look and see what it may look as an avatar. So in order to do so, we're going to hit our play mode. Again, the play button you'll find up here in the top right. As you see on my screen that I'm highlighting here, we're going to click play. Nice. So we see our avatar here in the middle, and we're just going to kind of explore. So we're going to just orbit around, take a look. Let's go over here to the campsite. There we go. We can take a nice look around. I want to make sure everybody sees our animations here. So of course, we're going to get into this a little bit more in the advanced properties, but we see that the fire is on here. There we go. All right, so to exit play mode, what we're going to do is hit our X up here at the top. All right, so we're going to zoom out a little bit. And now that we've explored and we've also kind of played in the forest a little bit, our next prop is that we want to add a tent. So we need to get to add another tent here because we want to make sure we have some friends. Let's see, I think there's a sleeping bag over here, and I feel like it kind of may need a tent alongside it, and we want someone kind of over there close to us. So to add another tent, I'm just gonna go down here to the assets. We're gonna click nature. I'm going to hit the side button here. We're gonna locate our tent. So now we see that I'm selecting it by hovering over it, and I'm going to click and drag it onto the create grid. Again, we see that the white box here means that I can drop it here. Whenever you see this red space, that means that another asset or object is already here and you cannot drop it here. So again, keep in mind that red means no. And then of course, white means that this is a space I can drop it. So we want to drop our tent right over here. Perfect. There we go. All right. So of course, we've added our tent, and the next thing, oh, yeah, we got our tent here. So the next thing is, of course, that it's getting a little dark. Let's see. And we want to select the campfire asset, and we want to kind of maybe bring this a little bit closer over to both of us. There we go. And I'm just going to slide everything over a little bit. And what I'm doing here, everybody, is just kind of translating. There you go. So these are the translate on the edit tools, and I'm just bringing them over here. So we're going to bring our fireplace over. Now we have it right here in the middle of our fireplace. There we go. And now we're just using our editing tools to kind of bring this fireplace a little bit closer over, keep everybody nice and warm. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is that we want to put out the fire. Of course, this looks like it's getting a little dark, so we want to go into the advanced. And what you see is I just clicked over here in the editing tools, and we click on advanced. And what's going to happen is we're going to see our animations tab up here. So right now, of course, again, I noted the fire was burning. We're just going to select none. We're going to go ahead and turn that fire off. There we go. And actually now, since it's kind of smoldering, we want to make sure everybody just kind of stays safe. Let's move that a little bit further away so that the ashes don't kind of like get on our sleeping bag and tent. All right. So now that we've kind of moved that away, the next thing is, of course, we're going to curl up in our tent. But of course, before we fall asleep, we need to make sure we save our work. So we're going to go up here to the settings. Yeah. And all we're going to do is just rename here. So to rename, we're just going to type in, we're going to put camping adventure. And let's put Daryl's camping adventure. There we go. So of course, to do that, we're going to save it. So now that I've actually entered in my name, what I want to do next is download my maker file. So I'm going to download my maker file to save my work. And now I have this maker file here that I'm able to share, of course, with anybody that has an active KayaxR account. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is, while we're sound asleep, unfortunately, it looks like it gets colder. And I don't know about you guys, but I am a summer baby, so I am not looking forward to the cold. Might have to bring that fireplace back a little bit closer. But in order to change our environment to kind of reflect the cold that we're now seeing overnight, we're going to go down here to environment. Now, keep in mind, since we're in the forest, we see this green landscape. When we go down to environment, we're going to scroll over and we're just going to select our snowy landscape here. And of course, what we already see is all the snow that's on the ground. All right, so now our landscape has changed. And of course, when we wake up now, we have a nice snowy landscape, and let's go explore that and see how that looks. There we go. All right, so I know for sure now that we're waking up, I definitely want this fireplace on. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how we want to turn the fireplace back on. All right, so again, we're going to select our fireplace. We want to go back to advanced, and we're going to, of course, select burning. And we want to bring that just a little bit closer now that, of course, we're all up. There we go. And now we're going to play and just take a look and see how that looks. Nice. So let's, of course, go and get nice and warm by the fire. Perfect. So we can, of course, share this with everybody. They can come see our nice little camping adventure and come get warm by the fireplace with us. All right. So now, of course, we finished our camping adventure. The next thing that we want to do is that we kind of want to go back home. Like I said, I'm a summer baby. It's kind of cold. I'm not liking this anymore. Maybe let's go back to the city, keep it nice, what we want to do. So we want to click the beta button here on the top left, and that's going to take us back to the space where we can choose a new template. So now I just want to kind of click the city button. Perfect. And now we are back in the city. I don't know if you guys see it. I feel like the sun is shining. I feel like it's nice and 80 degrees. Let's take a look and just kind of explore this. Oh yeah, this is definitely a little bit more back my style. I'm definitely kind of happy here. We're going to kind of stay here for a while, and I want to name this now maybe Daryl's home. Daryl's hometown. There we go. So we save it, and of course, we're going to, of course, download that one now again. So now I can share my camping adventure with my friends, and of course, I can take a picture of my hometown, and everybody can come in and take a look at it with me. Right? So guys, I hope this really explains all the questions that we kind of have, or all the information that we can kind of have in our getting started guide for Create. Of course, if you guys have any other questions or feel like you need elevated assistance, you can always reach our team at support@kayaxr.com. Right? Again, so hopefully this answers everybody's questions. And if you have any other information that you need, feel free to reach out to us. And I'm looking forward to hearing about your experience using Create. All right. Until next time, everybody, goodbye. Have a great one. Bye-bye.